Okay, so everybody has a list, yes? And I have books, so this works out really well. This is Chloe and the Lion. In this made-up picture book, we meet Mac, the author, Adam, the illustrator, and Chloe, the main character. Chloe, drawn by Adam, is on a stage with cutout scenery behind her. Her story about saving money to ride on the merry-go-round each week is quite bland until she meets a lion in the forest. Or so the words say. The drawing shows a dragon and impertinence, which causes Mac to fire Adam. After trying out a new illustrator and then trying to draw the pictures himself, Mac realizes the book needs both men, and Chloe has to figure a way to get Adam out of the lion's stomach. Pure fun, well-paced, with a variety of painting styles. Okay, Z is for Moose. This is a book that's been getting a lot of attention. So it starts out as a regular alphabet book. A is for apple. Can't get more regular than that. And we see that Zebra is the director here. Zebra's looking on. B is for ball. Yeah, you with me? C is for cat. D is for moose. Oh, no. Yes. The book soon gets derailed by Moose, who was so eager to be in the book that he pops up a D instead of M. He proceeds to intrude upon almost every page until he discovers that, oh, this is just pretty much heartbreaking. M is for mouse. Oh. Not Moose, and he goes ballistic. Look what he does. Oh, no. Zebra, the creator of the book, starts to get in the pictures to protect the items from Moose intrusion, but takes pity on Moose when he sees how broken-hearted he is, and lets him be on the final spread. Z is for Zebra's friend, Moose. Oh. This can actually be used as a book to teach the alphabet, but older kids who have known their ABCs for years, people like you, will get a huge kick out of it too. There are great details to find. The objects all standing in line, ready to go on stage. When Moose lifts up the curtain to peer out at the very beginning, Moose appearing in a kangaroo's pocket. Who's he? Says the resident Joey. Paul Zelinsky's pictures are understated and hilarious. Yes. Horsefly and Honeybee. A funny book on cooperation. When Honeybee chooses a flower for a nap, she discovers, much to her consternation, that Horsefly is already there. A fight ensues, leaving each of them with only one wing. Unable to fly, they take off on foot, soon to be snatched up by Bullfrog for his dinner. I know there's a lot of scariness and upset and tension, suspense in these books. Unable to fly, oh, I just said that. When left alone on a lily pad, they realize that together they have two wings and can fly if they hold on to one another. See, there they go. Nice message, but the telling is the real star here. Perfectly measured, funny, and repetitive. Each of them says drat frequently, and children will love to say that with them. The illustrations are also fascinating. Cecil has used two different styles in all of the pictures. The animals and some other things are flat and two-dimensional, while the flowers are textured and realistic. Check it out. You'll be amazed.
Anything with honeybees.
What?
Any book with honeybees is good.
Okay, you heard it here.
It's kind of like that, how you are about dogs. Or how Lita was about dogs.
I'm sorry, there's no comparison between dogs and honeybees. Now, please pay attention. I did not bring up dogs, although I really would like to tell you about my puppy. Well, he's 7 months old now, and he is giant, but he started out really little. He's a golden doodle. And he's black, which is really hard for a lot of people to understand. The golden refers to the breed, not the color. Got it?
Got it.
And how could he be black? Figure it out, quick.
1 year old.
The poodle was black! Yes! All right. So, I have 2 Llama Llama board books, Llama Llama Hoppity Hop and Llama Llama Zippity Zoom. What?
Sorry.
There's a lot of interruptions here from these people from out of the district. 2 board books about Llama Llama, one celebrating fun at the playground and other fun just playing. Both are fun, energetic, and guaranteed to get kids moving. Babies and toddlers not yet ready for the Llama Llama books will enjoy theses, it says, theses. No, go sleep. I can't understand this. I am always so happy to go sleep. A familiar problem, baby does not want to go to sleep. Mom and dad try persuasion, and they are helped by the words of sun, moon, stars, a car driving by, and the animals nearby. All are reassuring and poetic. All reinforce baby's idea that he is the center of the universe. Although the baby protests until the final end, Susan O'Connell is late. His fatigue eventually catches up with him and he falls heavily asleep. Jules Pfeiffer's illustrations are a combination of gently swirly outdoor pictures and sharply focused geometric indoor ones. Must be nice to have Jules Pfeiffer as your father. I guess we are out there. Oh no! Oh, yes. Okay, so like so many books, the story actually starts on the title page. I think this will be a favorite for story times for years to come. It has a storyteller's cadence, the repetition, and the trickery that kids love. Tiger is the villain here. First chasing Frog, who falls into a deep, deep hole. The word would be hole. And I even spelled it right with an L. And then licking his chops as one animal after the next falls in the hole with Frog. So here he goes after Frog. Frog falls in the hole. Oh, no. And then Mouse came along and tried to help, and she fell down. So now we have 2 creatures saying, oh, no. Yeah, see, you guys are good. And then Loris inched down from her banyan tree. So slow, so slow. You can't wait to use this with your little kids, can you? Loris inched down from her banyan tree. So slow. Loris inched down from that high-up tree. Then her allergy to cats made her, achoo, sneeze. Just when Tiger is about to pounce, Elephant comes to save all the animals. All that is, except Tiger, who now is himself trapped in the hold. Just desserts for sure. Great pacing, fun perspectives, great jungly colors, some rhyme, and great vocabulary words such as Loris and banyan. All combined to make this a sure winner. Oh, yes. Stephen Coronella is also late. Stephen, why don't you take those and put them in the back so I won't have to embarrass the next person quite as much as I've done you and Susan. This is Olive and the Big Secret by Tor Freeman. The minute that Molly tells Olive a secret and begs her not to tell, readers will know she will not be able to keep it. Olive tries to resist, she really does, but soon tells Ziggy, then Joe, etc. Each friend is pictured as a different animal in delightful cartoon-style pictures. The shape of the book is appropriately horizontal as the secret moves along in a line. Friendship is stretched but not destroyed with this breaking of a trust. The author refuses to tell the reader in words what the secret is, but anyone paying attention to the illustrations will know. Good for discussion about secrets, different kinds of secrets, when they need to be kept and when they don't. Day by day. In this celebration of family and community, a pig family head west where they build a new house brick by brick. They make the house a home with their cherished possessions, meet their neighbors, work together to create a garden, and celebrate the harvest and new friendships at the end of the summer. Gall based the words on the proverb, little by little the bird builds its nest. and the short text on each page flows in curving lines, contributing to the warm, cozy feeling. The bright patterned illustrations fill the pages with busy details and the comfort of family and friends. I really like this illustrator. I think I say that every time I review a book by her. Dog in Charge. This is K.L. Going, and this is her first picture book, which is a charmer. Dog is a huge, pink, tutu-wearing bulldog who can sit, stay, and dance, and is a good boy. When his family goes shopping, they leave him in charge of the cats. Soon he discovers that sit and stay doesn't work very well with cats. I've heard this myself. And they are everywhere, wreaking havoc. What will happen to Dog? Will he still be called Good Dog? Or will his family be mad at him? Cat treats, that's the ticket. But they smell too good, and soon he had devoured them all, and then fell fast asleep. The cats, who really did love Dog, I mean, what's not to love about a dog? Saw his predicament and put everything to rights, earning Dog a good dog designation when his family returned. Santat, a cartoonist, frequently employs multiple panels on a page or spread and is a master at great animal expressions. Wolf Won't Bite. This is Emily Gravett, a genius. In a nice turnabout, 3 saucy pigs have captured a wolf and taught him to do circus tricks. So they announce things like, I can stand him on a stool. I can dress him in a bow. I can ride him like a horse, but wolf won't bite. But the wolf's patience is really tried at the end when the 3 put their heads in his mouth and declare, now you're getting worried, aren't you? And declare, and wolf won't bite. What do you think happens, boys and girls? Show us. Okay. They say, we can even place our heads between his mighty jaws, but wolf won't bite. And you are delighted to see that, in fact, he has not eaten up all the pigs, but he is chasing them. And this perfect ending that continues on to the pig. Yeah, he's got part of the coat of one of them. The colors are grays, pig pinks, and bright reds against a great deal of white space. The wolf's expressions are priceless, and the pig's self-satisfied postures keep the reader rooting for the underwolf. The font changes according to the action, and repetition will make this a great favorite. Rocket writes a story. Teachers will warmly welcome this guide on how to write a story. Rocket, the adorable black and white dog, learned to read in his first adventure and is now enamored of books and words. Each day he goes out to collect new words, and with the help of his teacher, the little yellow bird, makes a word tree. I'm sure many of these will sprout up in classrooms. What to do with all these words? Why, write a story, of course. Rocket goes through all the stages, here's the word tree. Rocket goes through all the stages of writing a story, getting an idea, writing, revising, looking for inspiration. When things were going well, he wagged his tail. When he didn't know what to write, he growled. The yellow bird asks questions to keep him going, and his new friend the owl offers inspiration until he triumphantly finishes his first story. I like old clothes. This is a book that was originally written in, I think, 68? No, 76. So, you know, I'm a little off, but close enough. And now it's been newly illustrated. It's in exuberant rhyme, a young girl explains why she prefers old clothes to new ones. The old ones come with a history and some mystery. They have experiences and other families in their past. So this is, when I wear them, then I say, clothes, I wonder who wore you before you were mine. Was she light-haired or dark-haired, 7 or 9? Did you make her look awful or make her look fine? It's hard to tell who looked well in a yellow dress. Who would look a mess in a red striped hat? Was she thin or fat? Did she have a cat? I asked them that. Illustrations are soft, cheerful, and fun. Barton creates artistic versions of fabrics that she often uses as backgrounds. Who knows? This may remove the stigma of wearing hand-me-downs in some circles. Zero the hero. Zero considers himself a superhero, but is put down by his friends, 1 to 9, who keep showing him how useless he is in addition, subtraction, and, good heavens, division. But they get their comeuppance when he shows what he does to them in multiplication. They are eliminated because, after all, anything times 0 is, class? 0. Very good. Distressed that he can wipe out his friends, Zero runs away, and soon they begin to miss him, realizing how important he is. When the other numbers are captured by the Roman numerals, it is Zero who rescues them, thus earning him actual hero status with his friends. Here come the Roman numerals right here. It's pretty scary. This probably won't teach any math functions, but for those in the math know, it is a great romp with lots of humor, both in the text and in little cartoon bubbles and small pictures at the bottom. An educational book that will be enjoyed for the story, too. Lemonade in Winter. It's the middle of winter, cold, snowy, blustery. Pauline decides to have a lemonade stand, and her little brother joins her. And it is not just lemonade they decide on. It is lemonade, limeade, and lemon limeade. Bless you. They take all their quarters from piggy banks and under couch cushions and go to the store where they buy lemons, limes, sugar, and cups for $6, all the money they have. Excitedly, they make their drinks and set up their stand. But no one is on the street. So they advertise, they decorate. Here they are out in the middle of winter selling their lemonade. They cut their prices, and they eventually sell a few drinks to the rare people who pass by. At the end of the day, they have taken in $4, a $2 loss, but just enough to buy 1 popsicle for each of them, 1 lemon and 1 lime. Karis's pictures of white snow against a cream background evoke the cold perfectly. However, the determination and positive attitude of the children also comes through as warm and satisfying. Great curricular connections with math, and the reading is an investment program. How many of you are participating in reading as an investment? Or a good portion. Magritte's Marvelous Hat. Here is an astonishing tribute to René Magritte, the Belgian surrealist, which is as much fun for preschoolers as it is instructive for older children. Johnson has reimagined Magritte as a dapper dog who finds a marvelous hat that does not mess up his hair nor pinch his ears. Why? Because it floats a few inches above his head. Back in his studio, Magritte finds he is able to paint better than ever before, until he begins to ignore the hat and it flies away. Then begins a marvelous chase. First Magritte chasing the hat, and then the hat chasing Magritte. On the way, you'll be able to see them a lot better when you are holding the book, of course. But on the way, we see all manner of surrealistic objects, many directly from Magritte's paintings. A large green apple. This is not a hat, inscribed around a fountain instead of Cecine Pas un Pipe. Flying baguettes, doors looking out at scenes that cannot be there. In addition, there are a few acetate pages. See? See? Oh! Oh, you like that, don't you? Whoa! You can do that as many times as you want. As long which serve as mirrors and windows both. Children of all ages will love spotting the weird, the inconsistent, and the funny. With older kids, you can do a lesson on Magritte himself and the surrealists. And a design feature I have never seen in a picture book that I can remember. All the corners have rounded edges. Isn't that interesting? It's a beautifully made book, and I predict it'll be on the Red Clover list. I have already announced that it is, but I think actually we need the rest of the committee to vote with me. Minor detail. All for me and none for all. It's guys like Gwentley that give pigs a bad name. You like it already. He is greedy, selfish, and wants everything for himself. When he sees a notice about a treasure hunt at the park, that's what it says. The Parks Department invites you to a treasure hunt on Saturday. Oh, yes, exclaimed Gwentley. A treasure, all for me. Gold up to my belly, silver to my snout, diamonds to my pointy ears, and that's what it's all about. Hey. But at the actual hunt, he is so eager to get the whole treasure that he fails to listen to all the directions and misses key words, assuming that he is to head off to the sea, for instance, instead of the tree. When he finally catches up with his fellow seekers, they are all sitting on a log enjoying their treasure bags of trail mix. After making the stressful adjustment of thinking of the treasure as trail mix instead of gold and silver, Gwentley learns that there is a bag for him under a log and that no one has touched it. Here's his bag right there. Amazed by their fairness and restraint, he becomes a reformed pig and even shares his bag of treats. If only it were this easy. Since it is rhyming words that Gwentley always mistakes, kids will love shouting out the correct one, and parents and teachers will love the book for the lesson on sharing that it imparts and listening to directions. Up Tall and High. Reminiscent of William Willem's easy readers of funny characters and minimalist text, this has 3 very short stories, each about birds and one of the words in the title. With the word repeated a number of times, beginning readers will quickly catch on and be able to discuss who is tall and who is not, for example. Long does lose a good chance to introduce comparatives, but the super simple stories with surprise endings, each of which is under a flap. Oh, you people just love all these little things. Will entertain the newest readers. A bonus for little ones is the thick coated paper. I'm thinking that you all have some children in your library who like books about machines. Yes? Yeah. Multiple copies. Machines Go to Work in the City. 2 immensely popular things, machines and Lift the Flaps, and I hear that you people like them just as much as the kids do. Yes? Combined to make this irresistible to many. Starting with a garbage truck, this proceeds through a train, a vacuum truck, a tower crane, a baggage truck in the airport, and ends with a plane flying over the city. Each time a machine is introduced, the author asks the reader a question, which is answered when you open the flap. Lots to pore over for machine-obsessed little ones. Laundry Day, this is quite different. In New York City in the 19th century, a shoeshine boy tries to get noticed, but no one wants their shoes shined. Dejected, sitting on a curb with his cat, a lovely red scarf floats down from the sky. Determined to find the owner, many people have their laundry hanging out above him, he climbs from apartment to apartment, meeting a succession of kind people who give him food and suggestions of who to try next. By the time he finds the rightful owner, he has met a melting pot of nationalities, people from Poland, Jamaica, Italy, China, and Ukraine. The owner cuts off a piece of the red fabric, sends it down to the book, and at the end, he has a line of people waiting to have their shoes shined, and he has a red scarf around his neck. It's a great book for community. I Know a Wee Piggy. Well, every year is the year of the chickens, so I guess we'd rather have pigs. I mean, I don't have anything against chickens. But chickens and ducks, how many books do you have about them? More than you have about pigs. All right. In the caves of I Know an Old Lady, Norman introduces children to colors by having a wee piggy run into or through one color after another at the state fair. It says read, but I don't see any place to read. Well, maybe I'll just read it. Okay, he wallowed in brown. Upside down, he wallowed in brown. But brown is not for me, he said. I think I'll add a rinse of red. So this is the way it goes through. Creating havoc wherever he goes, he runs through red tomatoes, yellow eggs, and green, newly mowed grass. At the end, however, he is awarded for his original romp by being awarded a blue ribbon. For pigs? No, for being a great piece of art. Cole's bold, funny pictures mightily enhance the humor, and the design, long and horizontal, the names of colors presented in the color they represent, is just perfect. Maudie and Bear. Isn't this the one that you kept talking about, Marika? Yeah. Although it looks initially like a traditional best friend story, or perhaps parent-child story, this goes in a bit of a different direction since the relationship is far from balanced. The world revolves around Maudie. Bear is there to satisfy her every whim and be bossed around by her. In the first vignette, she decides they should get some exercise by bike riding. Bear waits patiently for Maudie as she goes back to retrieve one object after the next, and they are then shown getting their exercise. Oh wait, we're not there. I went past it. So you can't see from the distance, but this is how she gets her exercise. She rides in the basket, and Bear pedals. In a Goldilocks type sequence, it is shown how much Maudie needs Bear when she gets back home, shaken in the need for comfort. But she is back being the queen in the next tale as she orders Bear to prepare her an increasingly fancy meal. Interesting dynamics could bring about good discussion. Lovely watercolors showing a prepossessing young girl dressed in old-fashioned dresses are charming. Faster, faster! This is Leslie Patricelli, who has done so many of those wonderful board books. After tiring of the swings in Higher, Higher, the little girl of the stories asks to ride on the back of her daddy and then to go faster, faster. In her imagination, her father becomes a series of faster and faster animals, dog, rabbit, ostrich, cheetah, bird, until the bird plunges into the sea, and suddenly she is riding. Here she is on the bird, plunging into the sea, splash. Soon she is riding a sluggish turtle. Faster, faster. Daddy? Which is one exhausted father. Just in case there is any question of whether the animals are fantasy or real, Patricelli has taken the father's tie, and don't ask me why he's playing horsey with the tie on, and put it on each of the animals for the girl to hold on to. Illustrations are simple, brightly colored, and with little background, so even the youngest children can clearly see what is happening. In a nice addition, the clouds on the back end papers are in the shapes of the animals that the child has ridden. You people are so easily pleased. If you haven't seen Sky Color, you're going to like this too. Are you prepared to like it? You're difficult. Single-handedly, Peter Reynolds is inspiring budding artists everywhere, earlier with Ish and The Dot, and now with Sky Color. Marisol is an artist with her own art gallery, The Refrigerator, and the knowledge that everyone is an artist. When her teacher tells the class that they are going to make a mural for the library, the class decides on an ocean picture, and Marisol chooses to paint the sky. But what to do? There is no blue in amongst the paints. But when she rides home on the bus that day, she looks at the sky, and it's these colors. And when she's at home, there are even more colors in the sky, and the next day, when it's raining, the sky is gray. She creates a spectacular green, yellow, orange, red, and purple sky, which is so much more creative than any blue sky would have been. Here's the finished mural. The only criticism that I have is that the colors are not always true. The blue paint, which we see that the teacher has hidden in her desk, actually looks more green, and the water which the children paint on the mural is definitely part blue, which would have been impossible given the lack of that color. However, the invitation to think outside the box is there loud and clear. I'll save you, Bobo. In this sequel to I Must Have Bobo, Willie is trying to read a dinosaur book accompanied by his stuffed monkey Bobo, but Earl the cat is a constant pest. Disgusted with the lack of carnivorous activity in the book, Willie decides to draw his own story starring himself and Bobo. As Willie narrates to Bobo, Earl the cat keeps interfering, but Willie just incorporates his anger and frustration into the story. At the end, the cat is still annoying him, but he has learned to deal with him. Thought balloons, or picture balloons, as Willie draws, are nicely contrasted with his actual ability. So here's an interesting book. This has been out for a while, so some of you have more. They have it in Virgins. So this is by I.C. Springman. It's illustrated by Brian Lees, and this is very spare. In 27 words, often only one per page, Springman shows the progression of a magpie's nest from having nothing to having lots to having much too much. The first acquisition is a marble, a gift from a mouse, but the notorious bird thief finds plenty on his own after that, and soon has more than one nest bursting with found objects. When the mouse declares the magpie has way too much, we see a jumbled mess of objects that crowd each other out of the nest. So he keeps adding and adding and adding to the nest, and here's one of the nests. In fact, it is so heavy that the nest breaks the tree limb and nest and bird fall to the ground. Not to worry, Mouse and his friends rescue Magpie and then cart off much of his junk. The star here is the illustration, super realistic paintings of each individual object on various flecked handmade papers. Good discussion starter for the excesses of society. Now, one unexplained thing. The bird is tagged and with a band, which has a number on it, similar to that of pi. Is it to a reference that pi has no end? Is it a secret code? Or does it mean nothing at all? Always a possibility. The Big Adventure of the Smalls. The small children live at Small Hall, except it is not small, it is huge. Like many a child before them, they sneak out of their beds on party night and go partway down the stairs to listen and look. But alas, the stuffed bear falls from the hands of Paul Small, causing the children to sneak around the palace looking for the bear. Since this is such a grand house, there are suits of armor to hide in, secret passages to use, covered dishes to pop out of, and chandeliers to swing from. But mostly the children really are not spotted until their dog, who has found the bear, gets caught in the grand tablecloth and pulls everything off in his flight. A Home for Bird. This is Philip Stead. Another touching story of friendship, or at least companionship, from the author of A Sick Day for Amos McGee. Vernon, a tender-hearted frog, came across Bird, who was all alone. Bird does not respond to Vernon's overtures, but as the frog says to his friends Porcupine and Skunk, Bird is shy, but a very good listener. Here's Bird. Undaunted by Bird's woodenness, Vernon shows him around and then decides the problem is that Bird is homesick and that Vernon should help him find his home. They set off down the river in a teacup, but none of the likely spots are home. Unexpectedly, when they stop to spend the night at a house, Vernon inadvertently finds the home. It's a cuckoo clock missing its cuckoo. A joyful ending. Careful readers will know all along that Bird is a cuckoo clock bird because there is a picture of him falling off a jouncing moving truck before the story begins. Stead's pictures are splashy and messy, full of life and humor. This is The Town Mouse and the Country Mouse. Really a beautiful edition. A retelling of the classic Aesop fables accompanied by sumptuous, rich paintings. Ward shows the beauty and lushness of the country mouse's surroundings, with which he is very content until the debonair city mouse comes to visit and casts doubt on his contentedness. Here Ward does a magnificent job of accompanying the city mouse's description of the superiority of the city with illustrations of the loveliness of the country surroundings. When the country mouse ventures to the city, stowing away in an apple cart, he sees magnificence and sumptuousness, but also danger, noise, and too many scary animals. He longs for the simple, safe life he had left and returns once more contented to home. And we are all very happy living in the country, are we not? Okay, so I didn't actually realize this until I had to put the books in order, but I've actually reviewed 3 Mo Willems books. Why do I bother? You're going to buy them anyhow. But anyhow, here they are. So this is The Duckling Gets a Cookie. Duckling politely asks for and receives a cookie from an unseen source. Pigeon, incredulous the duckling got a cookie with nuts, even just by asking, is awash with self-pity. He has asked for so many things that he has never gotten. To drive a bus, for a hot dog, even for a hug, and for an iceberg many times. But oh no, he doesn't get what he wants, but Duckling gets everything she asks for. Why did you get that cookie, he yells at Duckling. So I could give it to you, replies Duckling. Oh. That changes the pigeon's tune, but Duckling isn't quite as altruistic as you may think, as you learn when she asks for another cookie, this time definitely without nuts. Goldilocks and the 3 Dinosaurs. Just the title alone, you're happy, right? Or not? I don't know. This is my kind of humor, but not everybody's. All right, so once upon a time, there were 3 dinosaurs. Papa Dinosaur, Mama Dinosaur, and some other dinosaur who happened to be visiting from Norway. Uh-oh, some of you have just as sick a sense of humor as I do. The conceit is that the 3 dinosaurs have set a trap for Goldilocks, and they can't wait to return to find a chocolate-filled little girl to devour. Because they have left chocolate pudding, you see, instead of oatmeal. However, they are not exactly subtle about their plans, and eventually she catches on and runs out the back door. Now, I have to read to you the 2 morals at the end. Okay, so we come to the end. It's a dinosaur from Norway that just happens to be visiting Frank. And the moral is, if you ever find yourself in the wrong story, leave. And the moral for dinosaurs is, lock the back door. So on these pages, whatever we call them, that's what we call them. And we have for many years, but we're pretty much lost every noun there is. So these are all possible titles that have been crossed off, like Goldilocks and the 3 Wise Men, and Goldilocks and the 3 Stooges, and Goldilocks and the 3 Crawfish. Anyhow, other possibilities. I would be happy if you wrote every single one of them. And another Elephant and Piggy. Are these books brilliant, or are these books brilliant? Okay. So I don't really need to read that review, because you all have it, or if you don't, you're about to go out and purchase it. And while I think of it, for the first time ever, they don't let her read picture books very often because she's a middle school librarian. Follett actually has my list already online, so if you happen to order from Follett, it's ready and going for you.
What's it called? Grace's list?
I don't know. I've never looked. What is it called? Vermont? What is it? Who uses?
Vermont You'll see them all kind of like that. It'll be easy.
Oh, really? Oh, it would be nice if it was. I think the last time you saw it was. But I don't have a close personal friend there like I do at Follett. Bill's everybody's close personal friend, right? First he goes to see my husband, and then he comes to see me. But okay, so now we're into fiction for younger grades. And this is the one and only Ivan. Who's already read this? What do you people do with your time?
I bought it, I just haven't read it.
Couldn't you just absorb it?
Osmosis.
Okay, so this is a book that's been getting a lot of attention. It came out at the very beginning of the year. Ivan is a silverback gorilla who lives in a cage at an aging mall where he and a few others are entertainment. Ivan was brought up as a boy by the mall owner, Mac, and is reasonably content with his art and his friends, an elephant, a stray dog, and a girl who visits him every night. But his perspective changes when first Sella, the elephant, dies due to Mac ignoring an infection, and then a new baby elephant brought in to beef up attendance is abused by Mac. Ivan determines to do something and with the help of human friends manages to secure a good life at the zoo for all. The message about the treatment of animals is powerful, and some of the history will be very distressing to sensitive children and sensitive adults like me. For instance, Ivan's parents were killed and dismembered before his eyes. Ivan is based on a real gorilla whose story is at the end of this book. Isn't that a sad picture of the little doggy who's lost? But you know I wouldn't be reviewing it if it didn't have a happy ending. In fact, you know from the beginning that the little dog lost, a female dog named Buddy, will have to be united with Mark, who has wanted a dog all his life, but whose mother hasn't allowed it. You also know that the happy ending will involve the recluse Charles LaRue, whom the children fear, but who is just lonely too, and who just happens to have a yard large enough to serve as a dog park for the whole town. The telling is involving, in verse, and heartwarming. Laugh with the Moon. Claire lost her mother 8 months earlier, and now her father, a doctor, has torn her away from her home and friends to spend 64 days in Malawi, where he has lived before. She is stuck, still grieving, mad at her father, and without a phone or any of the technology she is used to. She goes to the local school where she begins to understand the differences between her life and that of the Malawian children. When she is asked to teach English to a huge class of first graders, she begins to gain confidence and finds a purpose. Her new friend Memory, who has lost both parents and then has to suffer even another loss, helps Claire get past her intense grief and laugh with the moon. The writing is lyrical, the characters well developed, and the setting vivid.
You see that?
Probably.
This is what dead parents do.
How many books are there that aren't about dead parents? Not many. Even the gorilla's parents were dead. All right. So this is Sharon Creech's new book, The Great Unexpected. A great beginning. If you have never had a body fall out of a tree and knock you over, let me tell you what a surprising thing that is. The body, in this case, is Finn, a boy new to town who may or may not be staying with the Dimmonses up on the hill. He falls on Naomi and her best friend Lizzie, two orphans who are as different as they are close. Lizzie is always talking or singing, while Naomi is a lot more thoughtful and curious. Their town already contains some oddballs, Crazy Cora and Witch Wiggins, but then another stranger comes to town, the Dingle Dangle Man. Meanwhile, across the sea in an estate in Ireland, we learn the story of an old lady and her companion. How are these women connected to the children? How will they get together? Creech weaves together a story full of fairies, love, crushes, connectedness, and hope, ending with a great unexpectedness, which is a blessing to all. Two Finns, one for each generation, serve as love object and catalysts. Who knows what is true and what is not? Not one of Creech's absolute best, but still charming. Bink and Golly, 2 for 1. 3 more stories about best friends, tall and formal Golly, and short and messy Bink, all set at the state fair. In the first episode, Bink is determined to win the world's largest donut by whacking a duck with a baseball. But it's not a real duck. But alas, in spite of her spectacular wind-up and concentration, she only succeeds in hitting the owner of the attraction in the face, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Uh-oh, said Golly. Did I win, said Bink. Here he is after. Really? You love it when they hurt other people, right? It actually does. I fear this can only end in tragedy, says Golly after the second time. After confident Golly signs up for the talent show in the second story, only to be attacked by severe stage fright, Bink sets her up with a stage of hay in the cow barn, and the cow and Bink get to enjoy her rendition of Old MacDonald. And in the last story, the two are reassured by the fortune teller that they will be friends forever. As in the first book, the writing is perfectly paced and loaded with humor. Character development is spot on, but Fucilli, the illustrator, pulls it all together, whether it is a telling drawing of the two girls or the depiction of stage fright as the camera pulls out further and further. And the Dunderheads are back. We're so happy. The Dunderheads return. Bless you, that class full of kids named for their talents, such as Spider, Einstein, Clips, and Pencil. Delighted to be rid of the horrible Miss Breakbone and on summer vacation. And joy, there is a movie being shot in their town, and they are looking for extras. Unfortunately, Miss Breakbone is also in the line at the film set, and Spider inadvertently climbs her mountainous body to get a better look. When there is a jewelry robbery from a third-floor window, Miss Breakbone tells her brother, who just happens to be the chief of police and a dead ringer for Miss Breakbone, about the boy's climbing talents, and he is arrested. But not to worry, when Einstein and his talented classmates work together, anything can be accomplished. Funny, satisfying, and a great celebration of community and individual talents. My mixed up berry blue summer. If you live in Colchester, you have to, or work in Colchester, you have to read this, you know, right? Yeah, okay. Set on Lake Champlain, the author is from Colchester originally, and her mother still lives there. Shortly after the Civil Union law was passed, this is the story of 12-year-old June's adjustment to her mother's partner moving in, and they're planning to have a civil union. It has always been just June and her mom. She was conceived through artificial insemination, and she resents the intrusion into their life. Worse, there is an anti-gay backlash against the couple, including a boycott of her mom's store, and vitriol from the father of her best friend. So June has to cope with her feelings both publicly and privately. Framing this situation is June's desire to enter a pie into the Champlain Valley Fair and her daily pie baking practice. June's superior pie and the knowledge that there are many people who will stand up for what's right make her a stronger person by the end. Many of the characters are pretty one-dimensional, and the ending is entirely predictable. But between this being set in Vermont and the fact that there are very few novels at this level that deal with gay relationships, most of you will want to buy it. Bramble and Maggie. In this beginning chapter book, Bramble the horse is tired of walking around and around the ring giving riding lessons. Her owner declares that she needs a person of her own to have fun with. But she is picky, rejecting the first comers until she meets Maggie, who arrives with riding boots, a helmet, and a book on horse care. At first, she is spooked by things in her backyard, but Maggie introduces her to everything calmly, and soon the horse feels at home. Every time Maggie is not sure what to do, she consults her book, a great nod to the importance of good informational books. And at the end, she realizes that not only does she have a horse, her horse has her. Sweet and sure to be popular with horse lovers. Is there anybody here who's recently gotten a horse? Karen takes in stray animals, and so she got a horse, what, a year and a half ago? Just a year? But the horse was lonely. So she got a companion horse on Thursday. They didn't have enough to do with their 45 dogs and 16 cats. And it's a slight exaggeration, but. Okay, Carl Hyacint's Chomp. This is definitely Hyacinth's best book for kids since his first one, Hoot. And by the way, I heard that he consciously gives all of his kid books one-word titles to distinguish them from his two-word adult book titles. Isn't that funny? I'm waiting for the three-word titles for older boomers.
Too many words to remember.
Yeah, right, too many words to remember, exactly. Wahoo Cray's father has been out of work for a couple of months because of being hit on the head by a dead iguana. See, this is a theme, being hit on the head by things falling out of the tree. Well, it's what happens because the iguanas shouldn't be there. They've been imported, and then they leave them there in Florida, and then when there's a frost, they die and they're frozen in the tree, and then when they hit you on the head, it's a very big problem, which is one of the many reasons I'm never moving to Florida. Anyhow, and the family needs money to pay the overdue mortgage. So when a reality TV show calls, Wahoo agrees to their terms without telling his father. What follows is a totally hilarious look at a reality show that has no reality in it, and whose star is a bumbling, graceless, egotistical, stupid man who doesn't care a whit for the animals or the environment. His only talent is being willing to eat anything, no matter how gross, and he is far from being able to handle the messes he gets himself into. Except, he does think he knows what to do when he thinks he is turning into a vampire. Action, hilarity, parody, social commentary, and plenty of information about animals and the environment make this a totally delightful book.
And the iguanas down there.
Yeah, well, so if you're hip on the head with one.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Really?
They're becoming overpopulated in the Fort Lauderdale area. You can barely walk into the Home Depot.
Are you serious?
I'm saying, you drive in Fort Lauderdale because of the intercoastal, they have water, and near Lincoln State. I know.
I am so not going to Fort Lauderdale. Even though that's where the boys are. Okay.
She'll be leaving Dana.
Oh boy, oh no, no.
Those big snakes.
Yeah, those big snakes.
Yeah. But the iguanas are in Fort Lauderdale, they're huge. I have pictures of them.
It's supposed to be tasty, so you can have a really big meal with the Fort Lauderdale iguanas. Okay, I'm moving back to dogs. Ibson's last book, unfortunately, as you probably know, Ibsen is no longer alive, is a satisfying adventure comedy animal story. All Hal has ever wanted is a dog, but his wealthy parents are more worried about the looks of their house than his happiness. And year after year, he is disappointed on his birthday. Then, when his usually absent father returns home presentless on Hal's 10th birthday, he promises the amazing. The next day, he will let Hal choose a dog. After a blissful weekend with his dog, Hal is heartbroken when he discovers it was a rent-a-dog agency, and that his dog Fleck has been taken back. Unable to stand life without Fleck, he sets her free from the kennel and is inadvertently joined by 4 other dogs and the young kennel mistress. The 6 flee across England to his grandparents' place by the sea, having many remarkable adventures along the way. We learn a lot about people's foibles, the horrors of dog renting, and how close a dog-human bond can be. In the end, everyone gets what he/she deserves, and all is well.
What did you got?
Who?
Ego Dubitson.
I thought there was a dog that was dead that I hadn't paid attention to. She was old? I don't know the cause of death, but I think it was a couple of years ago at this point. Kindred Souls.
85.
85. Looking younger and younger all the time, that 85. What?
It's the new 70.
It's the 85 is the new 70, right? Okay, so now I'm talking about Kindred Souls by Patricia McLaughlin. In typical spare prose, McLaughlin creates a beautiful portrait of the remarkable bond between 10-year-old Jake and his 88-year-old grandfather, Billy. Every day in the summer, the two take the same walk around the farm, always ending up at the site of Billy's family's sod house where Billy grew up. Billy wistfully wishes for a sod house again and plants the idea in Jake's mind of building one. Jake at first resists, but when Billy is hospitalized, the entire family is galvanized into building a small, snug home where Billy can live on his own. McLaughlin sets the reader up for the inevitable throughout, having Jake say such things as, "Billy is 88 years old, and I don't worry about him dying. I know he will live forever." The sense of place and family here are very strong, and the theme of being able to accept death while the family member is still alive is well handled. A lovely addition is that of a dog who arrives out of nowhere to be with Billy and take care of him in his final days. And yes, it is very sad, but beautifully done. Cast and family fans rejoice. Just when you thought you could not stand life without another book about that wonderful, unconventional family, Mackay gifts us with a prequel about the oldest sister, Caddy, who is 12 in this novel. Rose is born prematurely and is hospitalized for a long time, almost not surviving. A long way from the permanent Rose we come to love in subsequent books. Concerned for the baby, especially on Cattie's part, since she knows the fate of the motherless baby birds she has tried to nurse in the past, citified daddies trying to run the family while the mother is in the hospital, regular friend and school concerns, and individualization of each of the family members bring a very satisfying melange of funny, poignant, and delicious. No one does family like Mackay. Capture the Flag. This is Kate Messner. A fast-paced but fluffy mystery set mostly in a Washington airport where the characters are stranded during a freak snowstorm. Three 12-year-olds who had all been at a reception at the Smithsonian to honor the restoration of the flag that inspired the writing of the Star-Spangled Banner meet up at the airport. They discovered that the flag went missing after the reception, and the three decide to solve the mystery themselves. There are too many coincidences. They had all sat together at a bench the night before, but hadn't talked. They are all from Vermont. Their families all belong to a secret society dedicated to saving art and artifacts. But the chase scenes, mostly through baggage tunnels and storage spots, keep it moving along. This is first of a trilogy about the Silver Jaguar Society. Now, some of you have read Wonder, right?
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. I've ordered it. I've ordered it doesn't count. Well, at least you ordered a good book. A good book, yes.
It's spectacular.
In an extraordinary first novel, Palacio introduces us to Augie, a regular fifth grader in all ways except his looks. Due to a genetic disorder, his face is hideously deformed. So bad that people who see him for the first time shriek or run or stare in open-mouthed amazement. He was homeschooled through 4th grade, but now is starting middle school. Being the new kid is always hard, but this is way beyond that. The book is divided into several parts, each one told by a different person, thus giving a different perspective on the school year. Well written, with realistic dialogue, this is a must-have that deals fairly and accurately with emotions, cruelty, truth, bullying, kindness, and the ability of people to change. Glory be. It is the summer of 1964 in Hanging Moss, Mississippi, and the only thing on Glory's mind is swimming and celebrating her 12th birthday at the pool, as always. But things are changing. Some freedom workers arrive in town, and Glory befriends the daughter of one. Her best friend Frankie is under the thumb of his racist father and big brother, and her formerly very close sister now has a boyfriend and no time for Glory. When the pool is closed because some of the townspeople don't want to admit blacks, Glory is outraged. First because she just wants to swim there, and then gradually she understands the political implications and unfairness. This is a good introduction for kids about what it meant to desegregate the South, one community at a time. But Glory's transformation seems a bit too abrupt, and the characters, I did originally say, are all black and white, but I realized that isn't what I should say. The characters are all good or all bad. Now, I have a review of this in my purse, but I can't go get it. So this is everything I have to say about this. This is Laura Amy Schlitt's Splendors and Glooms. This is also getting a lot of attention. Well, this one is just out. So I'm going to wing this review. It centers around 12-year-old Clara, who is the only surviving child in a very well-to-do family of a physician. And she asks her father for her 12th birthday to hire this street performer who does marionettes, to hire him to entertain at her birthday party. She's taken with the marionettes, and she's also taken with the 2 children who are his helpers. Right after the birthday party, she disappears. No one can find any trace of her. Grassini, the puppet master, is suspected, but they can't prove anything, and then he disappears too. Yeah. Meanwhile, there is a witch who lives in sort of a castle far away who was summoned Grassini to her, and it is her intention to basically rid herself of an evil curse by getting a child to steal her magic pendant. So, there is intrigue, suspense, there's some humor. It's told from multiple points of view, although all in the third person. I thought it was a little long, but some kids it will grab and really hold all the way through. Jordan Sonnenblick, Curveball. Peter Friedman has 2 tragedies his freshman year of high school. He is no longer able to play baseball, his passion, because of an injury to his elbow, and his beloved grandfather is showing signs of Alzheimer's. And he feels he has to keep secrets. He is afraid to tell his best friend, also a baseball nut, the fact that he can never play baseball again, and his grandfather has made a promise not to tell his parents about the slips he has witnessed. His grandfather, a well-respected professional photographer, has taught Peter a lot about photography. And because of him, he takes photography as an elective in school. There he meets Angelica, who becomes his girlfriend and his sounding board for his problems. Peter is a likable narrator with heart, but the story is not completely successful. It is hard to believe that he would keep those secrets for so long, particularly when his grandfather's life is at stake. And the friendship between him and AJ is not believable. There is no evidence of anything other than baseball that they have in common. They are just too dissimilar. Nowhere near as good as After Ever After. Liar and Spy, people read this? Joy, what'd you think?
Loved it. It's good.
Like Stead's When You Reach Me, this is great writing, interesting characters, and a bit of a mystery that cycles back to the beginning when all is revealed at the end. Unlike When You Reach Me, however, this one has an ending that doesn't work. Threads are left dangling. The big reveal is anticlimactic, and some things are just not believable. Because his father has lost his job, George's family has to sell their house and move into an apartment building in the same neighborhood. Right away, he meets Safer, another 12-year-old, who spends his days walking his neighbor's dogs and spying on the other residents of the apartment house, particularly Mr. X, who may be a murderer. He lets George into his spy club, he is the only member, and teaches him how to post a lookout, become a careful observer, and other necessary spy skills. Some of the details are hilarious, how Safer and his siblings got their names, and the juxtaposition of Safer's homeschooling curriculum and what happens at George's school. There is also a nice use of Surratt's A Sunday Afternoon on the Island of Le Grand Chat as a recurring theme to correlate pointillism with all the things that make up George's current situation. So there's much to recommend, but for me, it wasn't totally successful. What?
But I loved it.
A lot of people loved it, but we'll discuss this later. Louise, this is The Boy on Cinnamon Street by Phoebe Stone. Louise, 12 years old, but only the size of a fourth grader and newly living with her loving grandparents, is suffering but cannot talk about it. She copes by getting rid of vestiges of her past, including the balance beam her parents had bought her when she was an avid gymnast. Now she has quit the team, and her only friends are Rennie and her brother Henderson. When an unsigned note shows up at their door saying, "I am your biggest fan," she is sure it's from the high school-age cute pizza delivery boy. Remy fans the flames. She herself is suffering from an unrequited, obviously, crush on Justin Bieber, and the results are predictable. The true identity of the biggest fan is slowly revealed. Readers will get it before Louise does. And with his help and that of her grandparents, she eventually remembers the awful weeks she forgot and comes to terms with her past. A tender story of grief and first love. And yes, her mother is dead. So I'm not going to do the nonfiction right now, but I will do the reprints, which are on page 6 in the professional reading. And as I always say, these are not reviews, these are just announcements, so no, I haven't read them, and so most likely, if you ask me a question about them, I won't know the answer. So, and I don't even bring them up. The Drowned Cities is the sequel to that other book. Help me!
Shipbreaker.
Thank God there are people with brains. Shipbreaker. So, assuming that you have Shipbreaker, you will or have ordered the Drowned Cities. Kids are liking Shipbreaker a lot, I'm told. And Bitter Blue is a sequel to that other book.
Fire.
Is that Fire?
Fire.
Graceland?
Yeah.
Yes. So you definitely have to have that if you work with teens. What's the matter here?
Where are you on?
I'm on page 6.
Bottom of page 6.
Oh. Where are you? Okay, so Five Little Monkeys Storybook Treasury. This is several of Eileen's Five Little Monkeys books, and it's in English and Spanish. Chickadee-dee-dee is Louise Erdrich's. This is the 4th book in the Birchbark House series. So I said, I haven't read this, but Anita Silver just told me the other day that she thinks this is one of her best and more accessible, you know, for younger readers than some of the earlier ones. The Last Guardian, this is the final installment in the Artemis Fowl series. Oh, look, I'm jumping all around just to make it harder for you. But you can handle it. Legends of Zeta the Space Girl. This is another one in this series. They're in love with those? How good to know. People still reading a lot of Baby Mouse?
Yes, it comes right with the election, it's all.
Yeah, sure.
I guess I would have to know what the title was to understand the reference, but I got it. And so we have Baby Mouse, and we also have Squish, The Power of the Parasite. This is the third book about Squish. The amoeba. Now, it's hard to believe, but Junie B. Jones and the Stupid Smelly Bus came out 20 years ago.
Oh my God.
Some of you weren't even born then. Maybe not.
Feels like yes.
Doesn't it? And, wait till you hear this. This includes 14 pages of never before seen material. So you may open it and tell me if it's worth opening. Okay, so, you know, this series is really, really annoying.
It is.
Right.
Yes.
But if you're buying the Storm Runner series, here is Eruption. Or probably not. I don't think it's ever going to end. All right, so now these are announcements of books in my professional collection, and these are books that you can borrow to use in your library and personal life. Being a teen library services advocate, we have Linda Braun every year come to tell us what's new in technology. Who saw her this summer? What do you people do? You don't read and you don't go to technical. Seriously. She is one of the best presenters I've ever seen. And if you really want to know about cutting edge technology, particularly for teens, but she does talk about other populations like adults. And she's great. We have her generally every August. Where does she come? All the way to Barrie. Would you be able to make it over there? Yeah, we've had her for a number of years. Okay, so I have a book on multicultural story times and engaging children with print, building early literacy skills through quality read-alouds. And then, bizarrely, 3 books on picture books. This one is Leonard Marcus, who, as you probably know, is one of the world's leading experts on children's literature. He has conversations with 21 of the world's greatest illustrators. And then this one has just, it's called Picture Books for Children, Fiction, Folktales, and Poetry. This last one is much more international in scope and has a lot of illustrations from illustrators from many countries. Timeless Thomas. Isn't he cute? Don't you just love Thomas Alva Edison? If anyone thinks Edison was only relevant in the 1800s and early 1900s, and that might be some of you who are laughing, read this book. Loretta shows readers how Edison's inventions of 100 or 150 years ago led to conveniences and devices that we use every day. On the right side of the spread, he mentions something we have today, and on the right, the invention that Edison and his co-workers made that enabled it. Many people know Edison for the invention of the electric light bulb, but do you also know about his contributions to the phonograph, the transmitter for the telephone, the electric pen, whose technology is used in the photocopier and the tattoo needle, batteries, etc. There are few biographical details here, but as inspiration, this is great. I kind of fell in love with this book, Galileo, and was talking about Galileo for quite a while, but I'm stopped now. Using repeating motifs of light and dark and coming full circle, Christensen has Galileo tell the story of his life and discoveries in the first person. Although Galileo was definitely a genius, he got his intellect, curiosity, and search for truth from his father, a musician and mathematician who saw the links between the two in music theory. Galileo questioned everything, refused to bow to tradition, and angered both secular and religious authorities to the point that he was eventually condemned to be imprisoned at his home for life. But what he did for science, not only what he is best known for, defending and furthering Copernicus's theory that the Earth revolves around the sun and not the other way around, but also he invented the geometric and military compass, the thermometer, greatly improved a rudimentary telescope, and invented the microscope. Christensen shows his discoveries and inventions in small detailed drawings and has full-page portraits of Galileo in gouache and oil paintings filled with jewel tones and heavy dark outlines, reminiscent of woodcuts. Another inspiring book, so much inspiration. Just Ducks. All right, so I have to share this with you, this joke that somebody told me this morning, somebody at work, and see if you like it any better than I do. So, you know, all these geese are flying south, and you see these V's, and the question is, why is one leg of the V longer than the other? Because there's more geese in it.
Oh.
She asked me if I wanted her to come today to entertain you, and I said no, I would do okay on my own, but she'll be so happy that I told you that. I know, this is what I have to put up with. Just Ducks. Davies has a gift for writing picture book nonfiction, and this is another gem. Although given a fictional framework of a young girl who is fascinated with ducks, the text, both large and small, is mainly facts about ducks, and there is an index. The ducks in question are mallards, and children around here are likely to be familiar with them. Lovely illustrations, interesting facts, and a beguiling little girl combined to make a book perfect for both schools and public libraries. The World's Greatest Lion. I love this book. Do you know this? You love lions, okay. This is an abridgment of the adult book Zamba. It's the story of a lion raised in captivity who became the world's greatest lion. As a young cub, Zamba's parents were killed. You know, another dead parent book. And he eventually made it to America, to Africa, USA, a sanctuary where wild animals were raised through love and gentleness by Ralph Helfer and trained to be in movies. Zamba became an exceptional animal who slept in Ralph's bedroom, his full-size lion in his bedroom, played with the kids, and starred in several movies. His biggest accomplishment by far, though, was during a crisis when the ranch flooded, and he led all of the animals who had been let out of their cages to high ground where everyone gathered around him for safety and comfort. This is real. This is not, isn't that unbelievable? Huh? King of the Beasts, absolutely. This is a beautiful story in both the tale and the pictures. Lewin's magnificent watercolors, although they look like they are illustrating a fairy tale, capture the essence of the animals from Africa to America. Kids will absolutely love this. Kids and caring adults. Forget-Me-Nots, Poems to Learn by Heart. A nicely varied collection of poems selected because they are memorable, both easy to remember and worth remembering. Chapters include ones on animals, people, weather, strangeness, etc. Some of the poems were written for children, some for adults, and some are by that prolific person, Anonymous. The poets include those long dead as well as contemporary ones still writing. The end has tips on how to memorize a poem. And since Poetry Out Loud seems to be gathering in interest, this is a good one to start kids with. This has got nothing to do with that, but is there anybody who has not signed the attendance sheet? Okay, so I'm going to pass this to you, and you're going to pass it back to her, and then you're going to give it over here. And I'm going to talk about Annie and Helen. The story of how Annie Sullivan brought the blind and deaf Helen Keller out of the darkness of no language is here retold in a fresh and clear way. Hopkinson does an admirable job of explaining the difficulties of teaching words that are not nouns to a deaf and blind person, and she makes clear the difference between ASL and finger spelling. This starts when Annie arrives at Helen's, follows her painstaking and brilliant teaching, and ends with Helen's first letter that she wrote home. End papers feature a dozen or so photographs of Helen, several with Annie. Illustrations are done in muted colors with a lot of cross-hatching, which gives an old-fashioned feeling but mutes the action and feelings. Animals Welcome, A Life of Reading, Writing, and Rescue. This is Peg Carrot. The children who voted for Carrot's first memoir, First Steps, to win the DCF award have long graduated from high school, but a new generation will like this one. Instead of this being, the focus of this being on polio, as First Steps was, this is all about her involvement with animal rescue, particularly cats. She and her husband Carl brought this dream house on 10 acres late in life, and when Carl died unexpectedly, Peg had to decide what to do. She chose to stay on her own and to convert his studio into a sanctuary for cats. Each chapter tells about one or two particular animals that she saved, and animal lovers will love this. Easy to read, it is a fascinating glimpse into one dedicated woman's life with animals and writing. The Fairy Ring, or Elsie and Frances Fool the World. And now for something entirely different. Everybody all right? It is. The remarkable true story of a hoax perpetrated by two British girls in the early 1900s is a fascinating examination of human nature. It began innocently enough. Cousins Frances, 9, and Elsie, 15, took pictures of cut-out paper fairies Elsie had created in order to get their families to stop teasing Frances, who claimed to have seen real ones in the woods behind their house. That would have been that if Elsie's mother had not attended a theosophist, that's not easy to say, meeting, that she was at because there were no good movies in town, and casually mentioned to the woman next to her that her daughter had taken pictures of fairies. Soon the society was examining the photos, interviewing the girls, and proclaiming the photos to be real. The most prominent believer was Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who was an avid believer of the spirit world. This book shows step by step how the situation escalated and how difficult it became for the girls to extricate themselves. The narrative is matter-of-fact and reserves judgment on everyone involved. Amazingly, it was not until the girls both became grandmothers that they told the truth. That's how long. The fairy photos are included. Excellent source notes. So you have to look at these photos if you've never looked at them, because it's almost impossible to believe that anybody would have been hoodwinked by them. and show them to today's kids, and they know that they can Photoshop something much more convincing than what's in there. It's really pretty interesting. Now here's a wonderful book about Temple Grandin. This is Cy Montgomery, who writes about animals, tree kangaroos, man-eating tigers, kakapo parrots. And this time she introduces kids to an advocate and activist for animals' rights, Temple Grandin. In her usual engaging, clear style, Montgomery tells the story of Grandin's life, giving a good explanation of autism and how it affected her, explaining her strengths and her shortcomings. We learn what a good athlete and inventor Temple was, but also how she was bullied and teased. Working with animals and seeing that they react to things the way she does was what saved her. And her understanding of animals led Temple to create more humane ways of raising them and leading them to slaughter. Now 50% of the food animals in this country are raised using Temple's humane methods. She consults for huge corporations as well as writing and teaching at the college level. Although a genius, Temple still has trouble understanding humans' reactions and only recently learned what an eye roll signifies. Of interest to all kids, this will be of special interest to some on the autism spectrum, to see what can be accomplished and how being different is not something to be feared or dreaded. Each chapter is printed on different color pages, and occasional short information pieces on, say, the history of autism is on white paper, designed to look as if it were torn from a notebook. Nicely designed, well written, and very interesting. See how many nice nonfiction books I have for you? Life in the Ocean. Fascinated by the natural world as a child, Sylvia Earle was a botanist and biologist before she knew what the words meant. When her family moved from New Jersey to Florida, the sea was her backyard, and she turned her fascination to the water and its inhabitants, being very happy that there were no iguanas there at that time. From her first snorkeling trip when she was 12, she tried continually to go farther and farther down into the deep sea. Among her accomplishments is living for 2 weeks undersea in the U.S. Virgin Islands, walking on the ocean floor and going 13,000 feet underwater in a Japanese submersible. Careful to place the human body in perspective to the vastness of the ocean, Nivola shows Earl as a tiny speck among hundreds of beings and as mouse-sized next to whales, who, Earl says, were observing her as much as she was observing them. Although this is ostensibly the life of Sylvia Earle, Nivola's main purpose seems to be a call for activism to clean up the oceans, which is given in 2 pages at the end. What is not given is any kind of a timeline for Earle and her accomplishments, nor are any of the quotations documented, though somewhere it says they are from her journals. What this does do beautifully, though, is both to show how her childhood passion became a lifelong career and fascination, and how important it is for us to know the ocean's creatures. I love these books about, who start off with the life as a child being totally fascinating, like the Jane Goodall one, and how they stayed with that passion all that time. And so think of the kids you're working with now. Whatever their passion may be now, may be what they're famous for in 30 or 40 years.
What was the name of the one?
Am I out of order?
No, I just lost my place.
It's by Claire Nivola, Life in the Ocean, the story of oceanographer Sylvia Earle. You're very welcome. And now I have the pregnancy project. This true story is told by the teen in Washington State who pretended to be pregnant for a senior project about stereotypes and perceptions in 2011. Gabby Rodriguez was an all-A student with conservative values when she decided to take on this project to show how unthinking remarks, perceptions, and stereotypes can help decide how an individual will do. Coming from a family where teen pregnancy is the norm, Gabby lived her life differently, but those around her were quick to forget what they knew about the individual and declare that they were not surprised when she announced her pregnancy. Starting with the family history of her mother, who became pregnant at age 14, Gabby describes her family members' mistakes and how societal expectations and judgments colored their lives. The process was more painful than she expected. Friends turned against her, teachers were disappointed in her, and there was some backlash when she revealed that it was faked. But she was pleased with the results and glad to bring this topic out in the open to discuss. She was not at all prepared for the national attention, the TV movie, or the book deal she got. The writing done with the ghostwriter is pedestrian. Strangely, you do not get to know Gabby more than on the surface, and there is some preaching done. She is very pro-life, for example. But it is a very interesting story with some insights, especially about how teen dads are given no support at all, that most teens will find fascinating. What a great discussion book for a group of teen moms, or for that matter, any group of teens. And then this is Lita Schubert's new book about Marcel Marceau. A brilliant portrait of Marceau, in spare and poetic text, fitting for the description of a mind, Schubert begins with a brief explanation of what Marceau was famous for, and then tells his story from his birth in Strasbourg in 1923. Marceau idolized Charlie Chaplin and began entertaining his friends with mime when he was only 7. During World War II, Marceau became a part of the French resistance, leading hundreds of children out of the country to Switzerland and helping to hide a group of American parachutists in a monastery. After the war, he studied mime and at age 24 created his now famous character Beep. The accompanying paintings are stunning. Through line, composition, and color, artist Dubois captures the essence of Marceau as mime, bringing motion to the pages and emotion to the figures. Aftermatter includes some tips on simple mime, a bit of mime history, source notes, and further reading. The Plant Hunter. Some of you were lucky enough to hear Anita at the Red Clover Conference last week. Oh yeah. Sounds benign, doesn't it? Turns out the quests of plant hunters over the years is anything but boring. Here's the first paragraph. One got eaten by tigers in the Philippines. One died of fever in Ecuador. One drowned in the Orinoco River. One fell to his death in Sierra Leone. Another survived rheumatism, pleurisy, and dysentery while sailing the Yangtze River in China, only to be murdered later. A few ended their days in lunatic asylums. Many simply vanished into thin air. What drove them to do this? For some, it was curiosity. For some, a love of plants. But for others, adventure or just to make a living. Silver introduces us to several of the most successful and colorful plant hunters, such as Alexander von Humboldt, who explored Venezuela and Brazil in 1800, or Joseph Dalton Hooker, who sought plants for his father to grow at Kew Gardens. Getting the plants back alive was quite a tricky business, and often the plant hunters took hundreds of specimens to guarantee that some would survive, thus upsetting the ecological balance of the environment. Still today, new species are discovered, and there are 1,400 seed banks around the world to preserve what we have. Handsomely designed, this is illustrated with prints and photographs, many from the Arnold Arboretum in Boston. And last in this section is Brothers at Bat by Audrey Vernick. Who knew that there used to be all brothers baseball teams? According to the Baseball Hall of Fame, there have been 29 such teams. I know, sounds impossible. Anyhow, this is about the Aceras, who had 12 boys and 3 girls. All of the boys played baseball, and they played as a team longer than any other family team. Vernick paints a portrait not only of the team, but of the family, who was, as you would guess, extremely close-knit and caring. They formed the team in 1938 at a time when local teams were very popular. Anybody remember those? No, even I don't. Vernick puts in some background history, specifically World War II, when 6 brothers were in the armed forces. But amazingly, all came home alive. 6 boys, can you imagine? Their last game was in 1952. They formed the team in 38. And in 1997, the family was honored at the Baseball Hall of Fame. On the way home, their bus broke down. But no problem, they just pulled out a bat and ball and started playing in a nearby field. The retro illustrations add to nostalgia and feeling of family. Fun to read whether you are a baseball fan or not. And this actually made me cry. It was such a heartwarming story. Exactly. Exactly. At least I didn't like her play baseball, too. Okay, so moving along to young adult fiction. Seize the Storm. Since I'm always on the lookout for good adventure stories that will capture the attention of the not-so-eager reader, I jumped on this one. This unfortunately didn't make it, although all the other reviewers liked it, and that alone had me bumping this up to an additional from a marginal. We have 2 groups here, the bad guys, including the teenage son of the head bad guy, and a teen killer on a small plane looking to find a boat with a huge pile of money, and a pleasure yacht owned by a formerly rich guy whose family is on board. There is a little human interest with the daughter having a crush on her cousin and the hired hand having a crush on the daughter, who is clearly not in his class, and there is a wounded dog who is rescued. And there is a chance for some philosophizing over what lengths people would go to for money. However, I found it often boring, lacking in backstory, devoid of morals, and generally not interesting. But that's just my personal opinion. Yes, did you get to sign this? Yeah, if anybody hasn't signed the attendance sheet, please come and get it. Come and get it. Keeping the Castle. Here's an unusual kid's book. A story that is a cross between Pride and Prejudice and I Capture the Castle. Althea, at 17, knows that it is her duty to use her beauty to secure a rich husband to save both the small family castle they live in and have enough money for her mother and little brother to live in comfort. Right now, they are destitute and at the mercy of her 2 stepsisters, who dole out money rarely and begrudgingly. They, too, are looking to marry well, so it is no surprise that when the local lord brings a party of young men to his home to visit, everyone is quite interested. There is plenty of humor, misunderstandings, annoying stepsister conniving, social events, and the eventual rapprochement between Althea and the only man who is her match. This will charm certain kids, and they can use it as a stepping stone to Austen herself. See You at Harry's. Each of Joe Knowles' novels is better than the last, and this one is a true gem. 12-year-old Fern, a middle child, feels invisible. Her dad is fixated on bringing more customers to his restaurant, no matter how embarrassing his ads are to the family. Her mother copes by going off to meditate for long periods. Her older sister is on a gap year with no direction, and her high school brother has finally come out and found a boyfriend. When tragedy strikes, each family member reacts differently, but ultimately they learn to be a family again, and the end, though not happy, is full of hope. Noel's handling of the family dynamics is brilliant. Just read the chapter which starts out with a normal family bickering and running around in the morning, and see how the interactions change when the unthinkable is discovered. This is powerful, beautiful, and unforgettable. That one I liked, could you tell? My Book of Life by Angel. Anybody else had a chance to read this? Joy is the only person in this room that reads. What did you think of this?
Interesting, I think.
Interesting. Yes, that could be used with everything. The beauty of the writing of this novel in verse is in sharp contrast with the subject, teenage prostitution. 16-year-old Angel meets Carl, who seems to understand her and is so nice to her. Soon she is taking his candy, which is what he called drugs, and has moved in with him. Eventually she discovers his motive. He is a pimp, and she is to work for him. She manages to stand it because of the candy, but when a friend disappears, presumably murdered, she goes off drugs and is violently ill for days. Excuse me. Whenever she does something Carl doesn't like, he threatens to harm her little brother, whom she adores, so she stays. Then Carl brings home an even younger girl, 11 years old, and expects Angel to train her. That is her necessary wake-up call that enables her to leave. She did not have the strength to do it for herself, but she does for Mellie. Levitt uses Milton's Paradise Lost, which John has Angel read aloud to him while he does his thing. Chapter headings are from Paradise Lost, and when Angel finally understands what she is reading to the John, she is able to see her own life clearly. This is based on an actual series of prostitute murders in Vancouver, and is necessarily dark and disturbing. It is, however, filled with hope and compassion, enabling us to see the throwaway kids as they really are. So it wasn't fun. This is The Unfortunate Son. An evil count in 15th century France thinks nothing of killing one of his knights for an unproven crime, or rejecting his own infant son because he is born with only one ear and is therefore not perfect. Those two actions caused two young people of noble birth to be brought up in peasant families, far from their original homes. Beatrice, the daughter of the murdered knight, is loved by the old siblings who take her in. But Luke, the supposedly dead son of the count, is hated by his foster father and treated cruelly. When he is apprenticed to Beatrice's foster father as a fisherman and he moves in with them, all seems to be going well. But while out fishing one day, farther than usual from home, a ship of Saracen pirates captures Luke, and after a hellish trip in the hold, they sell him to a rich Tunisian doctor. There his fortunes change once again, because although he is a slave, his master recognizes in him great intelligence and teaches him all he knows as a doctor and scientist. Beatrice, meanwhile, refuses to believe that Luke is dead and instigates a search, which reveals not only Luke's whereabouts, but his family secrets. A wonderful combination of adventure, history, examination of the classes, and a well-integrated look at the meaning of freedom and education. It's cool. Now, I know that some of you are going to hate this, but I liked it a lot. A new premise. We love books with new premises. The narrator, known only as A, wakes up every day in a different body.
Yeah.
Could be a girl, a boy, white, black, fat, thin, but always around the same age as he. I am using the masculine pronoun here to make it easy, but the book makes it clear that A is neither gender. Yeah, there is no continuity, no way to make friends or have a family. A must go through the day accessing the host body's memories as needing, pretending to be someone he is not, and trying not to change anything for the hosts. Then one day he actually falls in love with Rhiannon, the girlfriend of his host body. Suddenly he needs to find ways to keep in touch, to see her, to develop a relationship. In spite of the difficulties, he is sure that they can figure out a way to be together, even though he is in a different place and body every day. But how do you have a relationship with a consciousness? A fascinating exploration of love, gender, identity, and cause and effect, and great discussion possibilities. So for me, it worked because he didn't try to explain how it worked. If you know what I mean? There was no pseudo-scientific explanation or anything. There's no talk about why him or who is pulling the strings, that kind of thing. It just is. And some things you just have to accept. You heard it here. What?
It must be exhausting to live that way.
Yes, I think so. This is, excuse me, kill switch. This had huge potential but lost its way somewhere along the way. Daniel has always had a close relationship with his grandfather, Da, but Da now has dementia, so Daniel decides to spend as much time as possible with him the summer before Daniel is off to college. At first it is all fun and horse racing, but then Da, a former systems analyst for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, starts talking about the country he's been to, the crimes he has committed, all in the name of work. Is this dementia talking, or has the dementia just loosened his tongue? When former co-workers start showing up at odd times, it appears to Daniel that they are trying to silence Da. After a joyride that gets Da hospitalized, Daniel breaks him out, calls on his stoner cousin, and the three take off. It then becomes a book about family ties, one person's control over another, and man's capacity for violence. There are a lot of unresolved plot threads. Daniel's behavior is unconvincing, and much is just unbelievable. Holding on to Zoe. This is a page-turner of a problem novel. At 16, Jules finds herself pregnant, her boyfriend gone, and her mother in disbelief. But Jules says almost nothing, and she wants this baby. She doesn't believe the doctor when he tells her it's an ectopic pregnancy and therefore not viable. Flash forward to Jules working at Toyota, giving all her love to her baby Zoe, whom she adores. But things aren't right. Her mother is still mad at her and won't acknowledge Zoe. Her best friend bursts into tears every time she sees her. A kind and very skilled therapist helps her to understand what's going on and what has gone on in her past. Although Lyons definitely makes you care about Jules, the mother is just not believable, and the revelation about Jules' past comes out of nowhere. And could she have healed as quickly as she did? Lots of questions remain about motive and mental health. Second chance summer. You don't often get a second chance, but 17-year-old Taylor does. The summer her family returns to the summer house in the Poconos they had stopped visiting. Stopped visiting a few years ago. 5 years earlier, at age 12, Taylor made some big mistakes, alienating her best friend and first boyfriend. Although Matson makes us wait a long time until we find exactly what she did do, which was pretty anticlimactic, actually. But more important than these past mistakes is the reason that they are all spending the summer together, where normally the kids would have been scattered at camps and jobs. It is that Taylor's dad has cancer and is terminally ill. The gradual deterioration of her dad's health is heartbreaking, but the family's learning to come together and do what needs to be done and say what needs to be said sustains you. Nicely paced, the book believably intertwines regular teen concerns and events with these matters of life and death. Fans of Amy and Roger's epic detour and Sarah Dessen will eat it up. Miracle. When Megan is the only survivor of her plane crash, she is considered a miracle by everyone, especially her parents. But she feels nothing but confusion and emptiness. She doesn't know why she was the one who survived, cannot remember any details of the crash, and increasingly draws away from people in school, alienating even her best friends. She finds some solace in the company of the next-door neighbor boy, an older, experienced, dangerous kind who normally would have nothing to do with her. But she discovers that they have a commonality in that he is also suffering from a personal tragedy. A Vietnam War veteran and member of Megan's church is the only adult who recognizes that Megan is suffering from PTSD and needs help, and the ending is hopeful. Scott does a good job describing Megan's isolation and emptiness as she slowly remembers the crash and endures the ghostly appearance of the people who died. It is hard to believe that any parents could be as clueless as Megan's, but overall this is well done. Mrs. Francisco Stork's Irises. Sisters Kate, 18, and Mary, 16, have been reared by a very strict minister father. Their mother has been in a persistent vegetative state for 3 years, with no hope of improving, and care of her is mostly left to Mary. The sisters are very different. Kate can't wait to get away and go to Stanford, a lifelong dream shared by her mother, but not known by anyone else. Mary can't imagine leaving her mother and even sacrifices doing her art for her family. When their father dies, they are left with some hard personal and ethical choices. And there are the 3 boys. Kate's longtime boyfriend who offers to marry her and take care of them all. the new ambitious young pastor to whom Kate is attracted, and Marcos, the bad boy artist who is becoming a close friend of Mary's. The writing is stiff and formal, reflecting the girl's upbringing in speech, but off-putting for the reader. Smart girls get what they want. When three super smart best friends, Gigi, Bia, and Nurja, realize that there's more to high school than academics, they decide to get out of their comfort zone and become joiners. Gigi and Nurja try out for the school play. Gigi joins the ski team with Bia, and to right a wrong, Gigi was unjustly accused of cheating on an exam, she runs for student rep to the school board. This gets off to a very slow start and tries a bit too hard to be hip, but eventually it smooths out and becomes an enjoyable light read. There's a lot of humor, some stereotypes overcome, and a little romance. Vermont Strohmeyer has a number of adult chick-lit books under her belt, but this is her first YA one. Kids who like authors like Meg Cabot will enjoy this. Okay, Code Name Verity. This is by far the best book I have read this year. It is beautifully written, brilliantly conceived, and breathtaking. The first narrator, a Scot named Julie, Code Name Verity, has been captured by the Gestapo in Nazi-occupied France and is writing her confession in exchange for a cessation of torture. She is an excellent writer, and her captor, a lover of literature, indulges her to the point of allowing her to ramble on, recounting her life and her relationship with her best friend, Maddie, the pilot who crashed and was left for dead when Julie arrived in France. The second half of the book was written by Maddie, who was hiding with members of the resistance. The tension is almost unbelievable as we fear for both of their lives. And what is Julie really writing? Is it in code or just good storytelling? As an examination of courage and friendship, this is terrific. Don't miss it. And that's all she wrote.
Thank you.
Thank you,